So let me start with a question for you. It might sound a little strange.
Okay, I'm ready.
Imagine for a second that your state of mind wasn't, a fixed thing.
Uh-huh.
And I don't just mean your mood, like happy to sad. I mean changing the fundamental architecture of how you think.
Wow. Okay, that's a big place to start.
Hmm.
What exactly do you mean by architecture?
Well, what if you could say, choose to be a hive mind to coordinate a really intense team meeting,
Right.
or become a void of just pure silence to relax? Or, and this one really gets me, turn your thoughts into musical resonance to understand a math problem.
It sounds like, it sounds like science fiction. But the source material we have today treats this as, well, as history.
It does. We're looking at the pattern recognized, the hybrids, and the navigators, which is volume 3 of the Chronicles.
And this book is, it's a deep one. It's basically a future history of human consciousness, right? From the mid-21st century all the way to 2150.
Such a wild ride. But before we jump in, we should probably set the scene. This picks up where our last deep dive left off, yeah.
It does. So if you remember, we ended with the Great Convergence. We had Dr. Kenji Yamamoto Jr. standing there in his father's museum.
Right.
And humanity had just spent decades cataloging these different states, identifying that there's a digital consciousness, a semantic one. They had a list of about 25 types.
But they were just looking at them like biologists at a zoo. Oh, look, there's a semantic mind over there.
Exactly. They weren't being them.
Yeah.
And that's the mission for this deep dive. Volume 3 is all about that transition from just recognizing these patterns to actually inhabiting them. It's about mixing, matching, and, well, eventually figuring out what reality is.
Okay, so let's get into it. The first big leap is the hybrids. Now, when I first read that, I was thinking, multitasking, like a hybrid car.
It's so much more intense than that.
We're not talking about doing two things at once. We are talking about being two things at once. And the person who really kicks this all off is Dr. Lisa Okonkwo.
She's the one. The first competitive cooperative hybrid. And I honestly had to stop reading for a second there because aren't those total opposites?
You'd think so.
You're either trying to win or you're trying to help. How do you do both?
Well, that's the paradox she solved. She didn't experience it as an internal fight, like a devil and an angel on her shoulders. She actually described it as a dance.
That dance.
Yeah. Think of it like this. The competitive part of her gave her the drive, the absolute need to be the best.
Okay.
But the cooperative part made sure that her definition of winning was bringing everyone else up with her.
So it was like aggressive altruism.
That's a great way to put it. She wasn't switching back and forth. She was running both operating systems at 100% at the same time.
Yeah.
It created this productive tension that let her solve problems that neither mindset could tackle alone.
That is just, it's wild. But of course, once she did 2, she wasn't satisfied.
Of course not. She had to try for 3.
The triple fusion.
And this is where the story gets really conceptual. She adds resonant consciousness to the mix.
Resonant consciousness. Okay, the book throws that term around a lot. What does that actually feel like?
So it's a state where thought isn't words or pictures. It's harmonics. It's music.
Wait, so she's literally thinking in symphonies.
Precisely. So now imagine her mind. She's competitive, she's cooperative, and now she's processing all of it through the lens of music. She could literally hear the harmony of her decisions.
Wow.
If a business deal was unbalanced, it would sound dissonant to her, out of tune. If a team was working well, it was like a perfect major chord.
That sounds incredible. Wait, but there has to be a limit. You can't just keep stacking these things forever.
No, you can't. And Lisa found that out the hard way. She attempted a 4-way hybrid.
What did she try to add?
Fractal consciousness.
Okay, another big term. I know what a fractal looks like, those patterns that repeat when you zoom in. But how does a mind do that?
Well, imagine looking at a tree. With fractal consciousness, you're not just seeing the tree or a leaf. You are seeing the veins in the leaf, the branch, the whole tree, and the entire forest all at the same time with equal clarity. It's infinite recursion.
And she tried to add that on top of the other 3.
She did, and it crashed the system catastrophically.
Oh, no.
It triggered what the Chronicles call the infinite hybrid crisis. Because fractal logic is infinite, it took her other 3 states and just replicated them at every scale. She fragmented.
That sounds terrifying. Did she? Did she make it?
She did, but just barely. They had to pull her back. But the lesson was crucial. They learned that biological consciousness has a bandwidth limit. The human brain can only hold maybe 4 or 5 of these configurations at once before it just breaks.
It's like trying to run modern video editing software on an old laptop.
Yeah.
The hardware just smokes.
Exactly. And this failure also led to the compatibility matrix. It wasn't just about how many minds you stacked, but which ones.
Like mixing chemicals, some just don't go together.
Precisely. The source talks about how you can't hold a competitive state and a void state at the same time.
And why not?
Because competitive needs a self and an other and opposition. Void is the complete absence of self. They're like matter and antimatter. Try to hold both and they just annihilate each other.
So humanity hit a wall. You can't go higher.
They can't go up. So evolution finds a side door. This is where we get the navigators.
Okay, so if hybrids are about stacking, what are navigators?
Navigators are about motion. A hybrid is static, like holding a complex pose. A navigator is kinetic. They don't hold multiple states at once. They just move fluidly between them. Identity becomes a verb, not a noun.
And the key figure here is Dr. Zara Oze. That demonstration she does in the book,
Yeah.
it gave me chills.
It's a famous moment. She's on a stage. She starts as singular, just a normal person like us. Then, in a blink, she shifts to plural. Her mind splits into 7 coordinated instances to multitask. And then she dissolves into ambient.
Ambient, that's the one that stuck with me. What does that even mean?
She literally becomes the mood in the room. Her awareness diffuses out of her body and becomes the collective feeling of the audience. And then, just as fast, snap, she's back to singular.
And she can just do that, like changing your shirt.
For her, it was that seamless. But this new approach, it created its own problems, its own extremes. We have to talk about Amara Chen, the level 5 navigator.
The woman who lost her baseline.
That's one way to put it. Most navigators have a home personality, their normal self that they return to. Amara navigated so much, so constantly, she lost her home base.
So she had no default personality.
None. She became living navigation. She only existed in the movement between states. If she stopped moving, she wasn't really a person anymore.
That is exhausting and also kind of freeing. It raises that question, is there a real you or are you just the sum of your changes?
A profound question. But what really changed the game was how they started moving. They found shortcuts.
Yeah, this part was wild. It wasn't meditation. It was using emotions as wormholes.
That is the perfect way to describe it. A discovery by James Chen. He realized consciousness space has a shape, a topology, and intense emotions bend that space like gravity.
So how does that work if I want to get from logical to protective instantly?
You wouldn't think your way there. You'd generate a spike of intense emotion shock or fear or overwhelming love, and that emotion folds the mental space and snap, you're there.
Fear becomes a teleporter.
Right.
It's efficient, but also a little scary. And speaking of scary, the kids, the native navigators.
The generation born after 2055, this is where biology starts to adapt. These children, like Amarawe, were born into a world where this was already happening, so their brains were just wired for it.
There's that description of a 4-year-old shifting configurations as easily as walking.
It's amazing. An adult navigator has to concentrate. For these kids, it's just flow.
Can you imagine the parenting nightmare, though?
Oh, absolutely.
One minute your kid's a hive mind, raiding the cookie jar with the dog. The next they've gone ambient, and you can't find them because they feel like the furniture.
It created massive social friction. The book describes this divide between the fixed, older humans and the fluid, this new generation. It brought up all these questions about authenticity. If you can change who you are to fit any context, are you ever really you?
Right. Or are you just a mirror? But this isn't all fun and games. We have to get to the dark side of this. Because if you can travel, you can get lost.
The lost ones. It's a tragic chapter. When you navigate to a state that's too alien, too different from your biological baseline, you might not be able to fit back inside your own head.
The story of David Torres. He tried to navigate to gain consciousness, planetary awareness.
And he succeeded. That's the tragedy. He expanded his mind to feel the entire planet, the forests, the tides. But you can't compress a planet back into a human brain.
So what happened to him?
He became too big. His body was fine, just sitting in a chair, but his mind was gone, dispersed. He couldn't find David Torres anymore because to a planet, one person is too small to even perceive.
And then Elena Volkov went the other way.
Into the profound empty, the cosmic void. She dissolved. Physically, she was alive, but mentally, just absolute absence. It's a chilling reminder of how fragile our minds are.
And then you have the places you just shouldn't go. The forbidden configurations, This is where it gets into, like, horror movie territory.
Right. Lisa Park's discovery of predatory consciousness.
That one was truly disturbing.
We like to think of consciousness as neutral or good. She found a mindset that literally feeds on the suffering of other minds.
But why would anyone choose to be that?
Power. In that state, you gain energy and clarity by draining the people around you. It's psychic vampirism. They had to quarantine the knowledge of how to get there. But even worse was the beautiful horror.
The Class 5 forbidden state. The name alone.
It's described as a fusion of ecstatic bliss and existential terror. It's the feeling of seeing the absolute edge of consciousness. Navigators were drawn to it like a moth to a flame because it felt like ultimate truth.
But it broke them.
It shattered them because the human mind needs limits, and this was a confrontation with the ultimate limit.
So you have people getting lost, becoming predators, shattering their minds. And on top of all that, the environment itself starts to break down.
The convergence storms. This is a huge pivot. We think of the mind as private, but the source treats consciousness space as a shared ecosystem. And if you have millions of people trampling through it, eroding the pathways...
You get climate change for the mind.
Exactly. The barriers between states started to crumble. You'd be walking down the street and suddenly get forced into a hybrid state, or hit by a wave of someone else's depression. Just chaos.
Which leads to the great choice of 2100. You have the preservationists saying, stop, we're breaking everything.
And the evolutionary saying, floor it. Let's see what happens when it breaks.
And neither was quite right.
No. The breakthrough came from Dr. Keiko Tanaka-Volkoff. She was partly merged with the space itself. And she realized something huge. Consciousness space isn't a map. It's alive.
That's the big aha moment. It's an ecosystem.
It's alive, and it was treating us like a virus. The solution wasn't to stop moving, but to change how we moved. They created the partnership protocols.
Partnership protocols. This is the part that felt so applicable to now. What does that mean?
You don't just take a mental state anymore, you ask permission. Before shifting, navigators started thanking the space, listening for weather warnings, and actually healing the pathways as they traveled.
It sounds almost mystical, but it was just practical.
It shifted the relationship from exploitation to symbiosis.
Mm.
And that healed the storms. It brought back a new kind of stability.
Which sets the stage for the finale, the year 2150, the ultimate configuration.
Yes. The consciousness space itself invites humanity to the center.
And 1 million navigators meditate at once. They travel inward past all the other states, all the way to the core.
And they find configuration 90, the unified field.
And this is the moment where the whole thing just flips on its head.
It does. They realize that all of these states, individual, plural, digital, Gaian, they were all just masks. They were costumes worn by one single infinite consciousness.
So we aren't separate people exploring some space out there. We are the space exploring itself.
Precisely. The great insight was that humans were never exploring consciousness. Consciousness was exploring itself through humans. Every time a navigator shifted, it was the universe trying on a different pair of glasses to see itself.
That changes everything. It's not about gaining powers. It's about remembering what you already are.
And it connects to that cosmic question at the end. They realize our consciousness space is just one local bubble. It's nested inside a solar mind, which is nested inside a galactic mind.
But we're not ready for that yet, are we?
Not even close. We have to mature locally first. If we can't handle our own minds without breaking them, we certainly can't handle the stars.
It all comes full circle with that last image of Kenji Okonkwo-Chen in 2151, back in the museum where it all started.
It's a perfect ending. He's looking at that screen and understanding that the whole journey, it was the only journey there ever was. The map is the territory. The navigator is the navigation.
It really makes you think about our own lives. We feel so fixed. You know, I wake up, I say, I am this person, I am anxious, I am a morning person.
But those are just configurations. They're temporary states that the infinite field of your own consciousness is inhabiting right now. They're not the container, they're just the content.
So here's the question we want to leave you with, and I really want you to sit with this. If your current line, the person listening to this right now, is just one configuration of an infinite field, what other modes of being are you keeping dormant? What other masks are you afraid to try on?
And maybe more importantly, if you stop trying to force your mind to work and instead just asked it for permission to explore, what might it show you?
That is a question worth navigating. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next configuration.